This is Thetford in the 1930s. This film is from the East Anglian Film Archive based at the University of East Anglia in Norwich. At the archive we specialise in collecting and preserving movie films about East Anglian life, so that we can look back and see how we lived and worked and played in Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex and Cambridgeshire. In the 1930s you could buy your own movie camera and make your own films, rather like videos today. Scraps of amateur film like this, of street scenes, are rare, but Thetford was lucky. Thetford had Ben Culey, the local cinema owner, and he had a 16mm movie camera and made local newsreels of events in and around the town. These he showed in the cinema by setting up a 16mm projector in the audience during the normal film show and showing the films and commentating on them as they ran through. But now let Ben himself take up the story.
I came to Thetford in 1931 from King's Lynn, where I had been farming at a place called Middleton, but it was not too successful, and I decided to come into the cinema business and found that the Thetford cinema, which was a silent cinema, was up for sale, and I came over and bought it and put the talkies into the cinema. It was quite successful. We enjoyed living in Thetford, my wife and I, and have no idea of leaving it now. We like the Thetford people and have always enjoyed our life here. I am joined by Mr. David Osborne, who is an authority on Old Thetford and a local historian who is going to help me to decipher some of the shots I have taken, because over the years I have forgotten some of the places and some of the faces even. I took these films as a means of revenue because people liked to have their pictures taken and then come and see themselves at the cinema. It was very popular and I enjoyed doing it.
Presenting Ben Culey's Thetford.
The next scenes will show the flooding at Melford Common, which happened in 1937, when after a very heavy snowfall there was a quick thaw, the river banks burst, and a great deal of damage was done with this flooding. This is a scene depicting the old Thetford Fire Brigade under the captaincy of Mr. George Body. This is the late Mr. George Lambert, who was a well-known resident of Thetford. Here we have the sports on the recreation ground in 1937. This is Mr. Pat Pearson's father, who was the winner of the Old Folks race. Mr. Pearson used to have a cafe in Minstergate. These are the people leaving the sports ground on the Montford Road.
They're the rebels.
Yeah, on the left is the old allotments, but still there, aren't they?
Mm.
Most people like to have their photographs taken because they were eventually shown at the cinema and were very popular.
Plenty of film stars in Thetford then, Mr. Culey. I said plenty of film stars in Thetford in them days.
They were.
There's Ben Thacker.
Unfortunately, some of the persons are not now with us. The folks in the pram were imitating the Thetford quads, who were rather famous. The Lingwood family had quads at 9 King Street, Thetford. This shows various decorated floats to celebrate the coronation on the market square in the year 1937.
Mm-hmm.
A wet May, wasn't it? Wet May
It
day.
was a wet May.
You're
right. And that's the late Mr. Harry Johnson,
Yeah, he was
who
married
worked for
then.
as a milkman for Mr. Pert.
This was still on the market square in Thetford.
Yeah, there's the King and the Queen in front of the miniature fairground there. I think that fairground's my grandfather Sidney Cooper's fair, which was toured all around the East Coast, and he often used to have it in a window in Guildhall Street for special occasions. I think you're one of your little shop windows, didn't you, Mr.
That's
Culey?
right, that's right.
Is that Mr. Blackburn's lorry, that one? Foyson's, my old Dutch.
Can't remember.
Mr. Lambert's,
That's
who had the
that's Lambert's.
local carriage works, didn't they, and local garage. So,
The noble animal refers to a horse which the council bought to pull the rubbish cart around, but unfortunately it ran away on several occasions, and one occasion knocked a wall down, and the public were not very happy with it, but one of the councillors wrote a letter to the press saying we should not get rid of this noble animal.
But you did.
Eventually it was replaced with with motor
yeah,
transport.
the next year, I think, in 1938, they bought a motor dust car. Well, there's the new Thetford ambulance that was unveiled that year by Sir William General, and given by the Miss Foysons, and the ambulance house as well in Earl Street. There's a good turnout that day, wasn't there? Even though it was wet. It looked like one of Foyson's decorated floats, and they had lots of Maltons in the town then. Several people worked there.
This, as a part of my work, I painted a coat of arms of the town and decorated it with electric lights.
We didn't have any street electric lighting then, though, did we? It was all gas lights.
Here we have the old steam engine used for firefighting, showing a picture of Captain Body and his chief engineer.
Yes, the Merryweather that the corporation bought in 1905 for about £325, and the corporation used that until 1938 when they bought their first motor fire engine.
It's taken at Spring Walks, and as you can see, this old steamer threw a very good jet of water. All the firemen were voluntary.
Yeah.
And really enjoyed themselves and their work.
Well, that's
that's Jack Parrish driving it away.
Yeah. The vehicle used to pull the fire engine was an old luggage bus that was given by the Earl of Iver. They used it at Elvedon Hall as a luggage bus for many years, and he gave it to the Thetford town to pull the steam engine on fires.
They are all your people that worked at the cinema on an outing.
This is an outing of the staff of the Palace and the Avenue Cinema, Brandon.
Mr. and Mrs. Lamb and Terry as a baby.
Sure.
Yes.
That's all right.
This is a fete at Barnum. This was filmed so that the people would come and see themselves at the cinema.
Like Thetford Town Football Club.
That's right.
Well, that's Thursday. That's the Thursday team, that isn't it? Thetford Thursday team.
It's the Thursday Football Club.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were Thursday team because half day in Thetford then was on a Thursday, wasn't it? And that gave the shop people who worked in the shops a chance to play football. Otherwise, they couldn't do it on a Saturday. And like Mr. Brown, isn't it?
That's
Mr. Ken Brown with the cigarette,
That's
who was
right.
connected
That's
to Thetford Town Football Club
And
for many
Charles
years.
Brown.
Mr. Charles Brown,
And
who's still
Harry
alive.
Johnson.
Yeah.
And Palmer.
That's in the old cricket pavilion.
Mr. Barnett. Mr. Potter.
Yeah, that was a pavilion that's still there now, belongs to the cricket
They were all
club.
sort of committee people, I
Yeah,
suppose.
they ran the football club.
George Palmer.
Of course, they were all local men who played for Thetford Town in those days, weren't they? It looked like Thetford Town Football Club against the Thetford Thursday Club, is it?
Couldn't remember that. I didn't see that taken.
And Thetford Town still play on that pitch, don't they?
Yes.
There's the wooden stand that's still just about there.
There's some of the local people. Some of them are a bit shy and self-conscious.
Caps and cigarettes, that seems to be in fashion of the day, don't they? I think that stand must have been the original stand at the recreation ground, wasn't it, when the corporation took it over in the early 1900s? I don't think you get so many up there today at the rec watching the football match. Was it 8mm film you was using then? Or 16?
16. A 16mm projector.
The
I
box.
set it up in the middle of the auditorium and showed it on the big screen.
Well, that's the Thursday team again, is it?
Ayres, the Ayres boys, isn't it?
Yeah, Percy and Sid Ayres, is it?
There was the Ayres on, is this end one and the next one. Oh, that one. Mr. Ben Palmer used to have a business in the town, and that's Mrs. Ben Palmer.
Mrs. Ben Palmer with.
I think they had a Thursday league where they played people at East Harling and perhaps Bury St Edmunds and other places where they had several shops. It's the wreck still, that one, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, still the wreck. That looks like school sports day, is it? Yes, a school
That's
sports
right.
day.
You're right.
That would probably be the Norwich Road Council School it was called.
You're right.
One of their annual sporting events. Because the Norwich Road School didn't have any playground, well, had a playground, but they had a sports field, and they would use the council sports field, which was the recreation ground. I think the annual school sports day continued right up into the into the 1950s when the secondary modern school was built, I think.
The late Mr. George Bladen, who was mayor of Thetford, but had been town clerk for up to 60 years.
You can see the old Moultons in the background and Vicarage Road, can't you? The distance there. Of course, the sports centre's now on the left.
Miss Schickel.
Oh, yes. She was a teacher.
This is young Mr. Brown, who became a mosquito pilot during the war. He's the son of Stanley Brown, who was a former town councillor. Mr. Palmer, who was the schoolmaster.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Oh yeah, he was the scout leader as well, wasn't he, for many years? He was a scout leader in the town for many years, Mr.
Yes.
Palmer. Played for football for Norwich City as well as an amateur.
Oh.
Definitely children from the Norwich Road School, because the grammar school would have all been wearing uniform, wouldn't they?
That's right.
That's the old cricket pavilion again.
It was the ice cream man.
This is along the Munford Road again, isn't it? All the leaving for going back home after the busy day's sport. It's now a busy main road.
They were sisters, they taught at the school. I can't remember the name. Mr. and Mrs. John Anderson, he was a reporter here.
Oh, he was a reporter for the local newspaper,
And
wasn't
that's Miss Whitehead.
he? Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
headmistress at the Norwich Road School. And that man was a teacher.
Mr. Evans, a master from the grammar school.
Now, what's this
This
about?
is Bridge Street, Bell Corner, isn't it? Looking up White Hart Street, isn't it? That's Mr. Pett's shop on the left there, and then
That's
Mr.
right.
Palmer's shop. It's the Borough Fire Brigade. May Sparrows and the Corporation, it must be.
That's right, these are employees, aren't they?
Salvation Army Band. Boy Scouts.
Colonel Short,
Yeah.
leader of the group.
Wonder what this parade was for then.
That's what I'm
Post
trying to think.
That was at Hospital
Oh,
Sunday.
and this was 1936.
The procession coming into Castle Park. taking from the top of Castle Hill. Someone coming after a collection to make sure I didn't escape.
I think they usually had a service as well, didn't they? The Sunday was a service held in the Castle Park.
This is the Barnum Fete.
Was that a regular thing?
Well, it was then. This was before the war.
Whereabouts in Barnum was it held in, Mr. Culey? Because that looked like an old camp building there, doesn't it?
Yes, but it was before the war.
Is it where the Barnum camp is now, or somewhere in the village?
No, near the village, I think.
Somewhere in the village, was it? Because that building's not there now, I don't think, is it?
And those were Thetfordians. Can't remember their names. Ivy Robinson, her sister. She was Ivy Pitcher at the time, and that's her mother, Mrs. Pitcher. They lived in Croxton. I think that was taken on the Brandon Road. Near the old ruins that were there.
Oh, was it in the Cannon's farm, or Cannon's house?
That's right.
They looked, yeah, probably.
Couldn't think of the name.
Yeah, Cannon's house farm.
A garden party.
Just so there's the local pictures are going to be shown, and they came in to see themselves.
Were they shown separately from
or see other people?
Were they shown separately from the main billing, or was it a part of the feature film that you shot in between as an interlude?
Part of the programme.
Part of the programme.
Yes, yes. We slotted it in, but I think it's the most popular part of it.
People from all the local villages would come to Thetford Cinema, wouldn't they?
Yeah, she was a Thetford character, that old lady.
Yeah, I remember it, but I can't remember his name.
Terry Lamb, he was been a mayor of Thetford on many occasions, and town councillor, isn't he?
Yes, yes.
The Barnum Fete appears to be held in a meadow opposite the Grafton Arms, and this area was used for many years for the Barnum lamb sales.
Camera in front of them, they just freeze,
yes.
as if you're taking not a movie, but a still picture. They weren't used to movies. He was a local Barnum gentleman. I can't think of his name. Mrs. Fairs, the lady.
Yes, that's right.
I didn't know the name of the man, did you? No.
Mrs. Mitchell and Margaret. They're not in Thetford.
I had a 16mm camera, and eventually I bought one which also had the sound system attached. It was one of the first on the market, an RCA model, but it had certain drawbacks and was not too successful.
Hello everybody, hello. Let us introduce you to the Thetford Palace Sound News. All local events and happenings November the 8th, Armistice Sunday, is with us once more. Beautiful floral tributes are being laid on the War Memorial in memory of our honored dead. The Thetford British Legion assemble at the War Memorial. The Mayor and Corporation attend the service, which opens with a hymn, God of our fathers known of old. The singing is led by the United Choirs. The band of the Salvation Army are present to render music. In solemn silence, the representatives of the British Legion lay their wreaths on the War Memorial. The Reveille was played by Bandmaster Reed. God Save the King. In spite of the inclement weather, it's nice to see a contingent from Wretham and Hockham.
Now, the Brits have just moved their furniture in. A sort of summer residence, what? You'll see the sandbags in front of the front door. Doubtless to keep the water out, though I doubt whether it will. The other side like this one. Here's some tea for it.
And now some colour film Ben Culey took of Thetford in 1951. That was the year when the town celebrated the Festival of Britain.
This is the late Mr. John Edwards, who was the manager of Barclays Bank. This is a float of the Anglian Cafe, and the band are Roberto Taylor from London, who was once playing with Edmondo Ross. They came to the opening of the Anglian Cafe in 1950. The Anglian Cafe was situated in King Street, Thetford, which is now Stead and Simpson's shoe shop, and the offices of the Norfolk newspaper. It was run by myself. This lady is now Mrs. Jack Ram and was the Carnival Queen. This is Mr. George Lambert, a well-known Thetford resident, who was a former mayor of Thetford and alderman. The gentleman in the centre was a well-known imbiber from Brandon, who was usually the better for drink, accompanied by two Thetford police. Mr. Rolfe, the Chief of Thetford Police. We are in the Thetford Market Square. The late Mr. Fred Potter, who had the wine and spirit stores in White Hart Street. I think you will agree the young people look extremely colourful. And a competition for the best fancy dress.
And they had a dance in the Guildhall in the evening, didn't they?
Yes.
Ben Thacker again?
Yeah.
He seemed to get his face in front of the camera on occasion. Is that Richard Scott with the blonde hair on the left? He's played for Norwich City? Look like him.
The Red Cross, yes.
You say they were the Greenhill Girls? Is that the same ones?
The Greenhill
Two
Girls.
Greenhill Girls, yes.
Yes.
The dancing trio. Is that your Land Rover there, is it, Mr. Culey?
George Hopkins, yes. Yes. They then toured the town.
This was the former Thetford Town Band, which was organised by Mr. Hector Sutherland, the husband of Mrs. Marjorie Sutherland, a former town councillor and mayor.
Yeah, Hector Sutherland was a famous band leader in his time, wasn't he? A famous musician.
Oh, yes, yes.
Played all over Europe, I believe, didn't he?
That's right.
Mr. George Coibert is the drummer, and he was also a town councillor and an alderman.
Oh, it's an old Burroughs engine.
Mr. Phoenix was driving the steam engine, which probably belonged to an owner at Wheating.
Mr. Phoenix, he was a sort of pioneer in preservation of the traction engines, wasn't he? Electricity service. They had a shop in King Street then, didn't they?
Yes.
What should I say? It's a more compact community. They all sort of turned out, supported things. I think a bit more than they do now.
Yeah, there's only about 4,500 people in the town then, wasn't there?
That's right, yes.
Miss Hilda Flint and Mr. Curly Robinson.
Mrs. Vincent. Mr. and Mrs. Robinson.
Mr. and Mrs. Robinson and Mr. Howell, son of the late borough engineer.
Where was that taken then? Oh, it's outside the central, yes, outside the central.
The central, yes.
In the middle 1950s, Thetford Town Borough Council agreed with London County Council to accept 5,000 people into the town, and in 1959 they actually built some of the first houses on the south of the town, the first LCC, we call overspill houses. Very little changes took place in the town till probably really the sort of middle 1960s, and these appear to be some of the houses being built just off the Brandon Road, I think possibly Mackenzie Road.
Those are some of the houses.
Yeah, this is well into the town expansion had already started, but then this is Mackenzie Road. This is a private development, it's nothing to do with the LCC. Now you can see the Thermos factory in the background there. That was probably opened about 1964, 65. Of course all the fields around there now, they've all been developed as well. You can see bricks already stacked there to build some of the other factories. Baxter's Laboratories or Travenol's is built very close to this site where we are there. And of course all the belts of pine trees you can see had to be preserved, and they couldn't be developed. This is some of the first factories that were built. That was Clark's, which is now Paraphrase on the right, the taller building. This looks like some of the smaller unifactories that were built, which is now Napier Place. They were the very original factories. And just across the road from there, the other side of Kim's Belt, were some of the first houses that were built. In the background there, I think that must have been Nova Board. This is Priory Park, which was developed in the 1950s, but nothing to do with the overspill development. That looked like St John's Way, but I may be wrong. But again, looks like another private. Right. This is the Berry Road. That's the what we call the Merkel Garage now. That's Queens Way along there, and that's Bracken Road. They were all developed in the early part of the 1960s. That's the Berry Road in the foreground. That site there, when I was a boy, was always the local fairground. The local fairs the fairs visiting Thetford would always erect their amusements on that site. That's the wall for the old Union Workhouse, which later became known as St Barnabas Hospital. That's the old Union Workhouse there. It was built in 1836 for 300 pauper inmates and eventually demolished about 1978, and it's now a private housing estate. Can't tell with that. That's the Spring Nuns Bridge by the Spring Water. It hasn't changed at all. Just beyond that was the old borough swimming baths. That's panning along Spring Walks, which is still a favourite walk and very attractive area of the town. That's the Little Ouse River in the foreground, which joins the Thet in the middle of Thetford, where Button Bridge is now. This is the waterfall at the back of Shrublands, where Mr Culey used to live. The back of the coffee mill, that's the old iron bridges, which is, I think, built by Burrells about 1884, that particular bridge. But there's a very old river crossing there. It's the Thetford Grammar School, which is now a private school. Looking along the Highling Path, which you can see on the left, and on the right is the site of the old Burrells Works, which was then the Norfolk Carries, the town bridge, and you can see all the old Malting houses in the background. Bridge Street looking towards St Peter's Church. That's the plaque that was unveiled in the 1950s commemorating the Bodell Burrell engine. Minstergate Street site has changed a great deal. There's a large shopping precinct there now, a large shop. It's King Street, looking towards the Bell Hotel. All those buildings on the right were erected in the early 1960s. The Green Dragon, the Angels, all these old pubs are still survived in the Marketplace area. The Clock Tower, the Guildhall. The Guildhall was built, this particular Guildhall, in 1902. That's the Black Horse, Magdalen Street, still there, still trading today. Norwich Road, the fire station you can see on the right, which was opened in 1952, the Ark public house on the Norwich Road, and the bridge you can see just there on the left has disappeared. Some of the malting houses are still being used then. Of course, they've all disappeared today. This is the old town cage and locker in Cage Lane. It was originally on the site where the Carnegie room is, but it's moved to the opposite site again in the mid-1960s. This is the river again near the town bridge. You can see the maltings there, and that site now is occupied by the precinct, the Riverside Walk, and on the left there by the car park and the bus station. This is the Bell Hotel, which is still the primary hostelry in Thetford. And this is Bridge Street looking towards the town bridge. That's the Anchor Inn, another old Thetford inn on the main highway through the town. This is White Hart Street, the Ancient House Museum on the left, and of course this was the main road through Thetford for many years. The Albin in Castle Street, which is still trading. The Bridge Tavern, another Thetford public house. Was renamed the Flints and served and traded as the Flints for a few years. There's the Dolphin in Old Market Street, which is still there today. The old marketplace was removed to the present marketplace in 1786. That looks like the Railway Tavern, lovely flint building built in 1845 when the railways came to Thetford, and that's the railway station. The original railway station you can see on the left, the flint building. That's looking towards Norwich along the station platform. Vicarage Road in the distance. This is the old Melford Bridge station, which was built in 1876. It closed to passenger service in 1953. That's the Thetford Town sign that was built or erected in the early 1950s, carved by Mr. Carter of Swaffham, who was quite a famous wood carver. That's King Swain on that side, and on the other side is Thomas Paine, Thetford's famous son. And you can see above there the old Borough Arms, which are depicted. The sign's still standing there. That's lovely, Mr. Culey. Really enjoyed that. I expect that will bring back lots of memories for different people in the town.
It has, David, and I would like to thank you for all your knowledge of Old Thetford. You've helped a great deal in sorting out what I took years ago. Thank you very much.